They say a man shows his character when he has everything to lose. I'm Caleb Rivers. 6 months ago, I stood in a courtroom and chose to lose it all. My fortune, my family name, my father's empire, all for a woman I barely knew. You want to know if I regret it? Ask me when this story ends. But first, let me take you back. Back to the day everything changed. Back to September 1885, when I rode to the Thornhill Ranch to choose a wife like I was selecting cattle at auction. The Montana sky was the color of old bruises that morning. Storm clouds gathered over the eastern ridge as my father and I guided our horses through the valley. Harrison Rivers sat tall in his saddle beside me, his jaw set in that way that meant the conversation was over before it began. We'd argued the entire ride from Rivers Ranch, 2 hours of his voice drilling into my skull like a railway spike. This is business, Caleb, nothing more. Richard Thornhill needs capital. We need his land access. A marriage between our families solves both problems. I didn't answer, just watched the horizon and thought about Grace. Grace Ashford. The name still hurt to think, even after 5 years. She'd been the daughter of a Boston merchant, delicate as porcelain, raised on piano lessons and poetry. My father arranged that match too, called it a strategic alliance, said Grace would bring refinement to the Rivers name, connections to Eastern society. What he didn't account for was Montana. The brutal winters, the isolation, the kind of loneliness that eats at you like rust on iron. Grace tried. God knows she tried. But every day she withered a little more. Every morning I'd find her standing at the window staring east toward a home she'd never see again. And every morning I'd tell her to be stronger, to adapt, to become the woman I needed her to be. I can still see her face the day I ended our engagement. Pale, hollow. Those dark circles under her eyes like she hadn't slept in weeks. I told myself I was being practical, that she wasn't suited for this life, that it was kinder to let her go than to watch her slowly die inside. If you're not strong enough to stay, then you're not strong enough to be my wife. That's what I said, word for word. I remember because those words haunted me for 2 months, until the telegram arrived from Boston. Grace Ashford had taken her own life, laudanum, a whole bottle of it. They found a letter in her room. Her parents sent it to me, perhaps thinking I deserved to know, perhaps thinking I deserved the pain. I wasn't weak, Caleb, I was just human. You wanted a survivor, not a wife. I kept that letter in my desk drawer, read it every night for a year. My father never knew. He just moved on to the next business arrangement, the next strategic alliance. But I swore I'd never make that mistake again, never choose someone fragile, never break another human being with my expectations. This time I told myself I'd choose someone already broken, someone who knew how to survive. The Thornhill Ranch appeared over the rise like something out of a fever dream. Smaller than Rivers Ranch, but well-maintained. White fences lined the approach road. Horses grazed in the eastern pasture. The main house stood 3 stories tall, all dark wood and glass windows that reflected the gathering storm. Richard Thornhill was waiting on the porch, 50 years old, gray at the temples, wearing a suit too fine for ranch work. The kind of man who cared more about appearances than substance. I recognized the type immediately. My father was cut from the same cloth. Harrison, Caleb, welcome. Richard's smile didn't reach his eyes. Come in. My daughter is eager to meet you. We followed him inside. The parlor was staged like a theater set, fresh flowers on every surface, the good china laid out. Everything positioned to impress, to seduce, to close the deal. And there she was. Rosalie Thornhill stood by the window in a dress the color of summer sky. 23 years old, beautiful in that carefully constructed way that spoke of hours spent in preparation. Her blonde hair was pinned up in elaborate curls. Her smile was perfect. Her posture was perfect. Everything about her was perfect. And I felt absolutely nothing. Mr. Rivers, she extended her hand with practiced grace. I've heard so much about you. I took her hand, felt the softness of it, the kind of hand that had never worked, never struggled, never bled. The kind of hand Grace had. "Miss Thornhill, the pleasure is mine." We sat, made small talk. Richard and my father discussed business in that coded language men use when they're negotiating away someone's future. Rosalie served tea with elegant precision, every movement rehearsed. But her eyes, that's what I noticed. Her eyes never matched her smile. They were distant, performing, playing a role she'd been trained to play since childhood. I'd seen those eyes before. In Grace, in every society woman who'd ever been paraded before me like merchandise. Eyes that said, "Please like me. Please choose me. Please don't send me back to whatever fate awaits if I fail." The conversation droned on. Markets and land rights and railway access. I stopped listening, started cataloging my exits, started planning how to tell my father this wouldn't work. "If you'll excuse me," I said, standing abruptly, "I'd like to see the property, get a sense of the land." Richard's smile tightened. "Of course, though I'm sure you'll find everything in order." I stepped outside. The air was thick with moisture, electric with the coming storm. I walked without direction, just needing space, needing to breathe. That's when I heard it, singing, soft and low, coming from the barn. I followed the sound across the yard. The barn door was half open. Inside, the shadows were long and cool. The smell of hay and horse and leather filled my lungs. And there she was. A woman knelt beside a horse in the far stall. The animal was lying down, which was never a good sign. Blood darkened its foreleg. The woman's hands moved with steady confidence, wrapping the wound with strips of cloth. She sang as she worked, some old melody I didn't recognize. The horse's ear flicked toward her voice, calming. Her dress was simple, brown, practical, stained with dirt and blood. Her dark hair fell loose around her shoulders, escaping from what had once been a braid. She wore no gloves. Her hands were rough, capable, working hands. She didn't notice me at first, just kept singing, kept rapping. Then she spoke without looking up. "If you're going to stand there, make yourself useful. I need the jar of salve on the shelf behind you." Her voice was different from Rosalie's, no practiced sweetness, just direct, matter of fact. I grabbed the jar and approached the stall. She glanced up then, and for a moment our eyes met. Hers were blue, not the pale blue of winter sky, but deep, the color of water in a mountain lake. Then she looked away, back to her work. "Thank you." She took the jar, unscrewed the lid. The salve smelled of pine and something medicinal. She worked it into the wound with gentle fingers. The horse nickered softly. "Will he make it?" I asked. "She, and yes, if infection doesn't set in. She got spooked by thunder this morning, crashed through a fence, fool animal." But there was affection in her voice. Most people would put her down, call her too much trouble, not worth the effort. "But not you?" She paused in her work, looked at me again, really looked this time. "I think something that fights to survive deserves a chance," the way she said it, like she wasn't talking about the horse at all. "You're the river's son." It wasn't a question. She'd figured it out. "You're here to choose a bride." "I am?" "Then you're in the wrong place. My sister's in the house. She's the one being sold today." The bitterness in those words cut like a blade. "And you?" "I'm Emma, the daughter they don't show to guests." She returned to her work, fingers moving with practiced efficiency. "I'm not suitable for this sort of arrangement." "Why not?" She didn't answer right away, just finished wrapping the wound, secured it with a knot. Then she stood, wiping her bloody hands on her apron. "Because I killed my mother, and apparently that makes me unmarriageable." She said it flatly, without emotion, like stating a fact about the weather. I should have been shocked, should have made my excuses and left. But something in the way she held herself, the set of her shoulders, the directness of her gaze, it kept me rooted. "How?" I asked. "Does it matter?" "I think it might." Emma walked to the water bucket, began washing her hands. 7 years ago, my mother was sick, heart trouble. She needed me home, but I heard someone calling for help in the woods. A woman had been thrown from her horse, injured badly. I had to choose, stay with my mother or help a stranger. She dried her hands on a towel, her back to me. I chose the stranger, brought her back here, tended her wounds all night. By morning, my mother was dead, another heart attack, alone in her room while I was saving someone else's life. The rain started then, soft at first, then harder, drumming on the barn roof like fingers on a drum. My father decided I was responsible, that I'd chosen wrong, that I'd valued a stranger over my own blood. She turned to face me. He wasn't wrong. Yes, he was. The words came out before I could stop them. Emma's eyes widened slightly. You don't know anything about it. I know you had to make an impossible choice. I know you saved someone's life. And I know that being punished for that is obscene. Something shifted in her expression. Uncertainty, like she'd expected judgment and gotten something else entirely. The woman I saved, she said quietly. She didn't die. My mother did. That's what matters. Who was she? The woman you saved? Emma shrugged. I never learned her name. She was well-dressed. Wealthy, I think. Her family came for her the next day. I never saw her again. My ribs constricted. A thought forming. Impossible, but what did she look like? Why does it matter? Please. Emma frowned, remembering. Dark hair, maybe 40 years old, kind eyes. She kept apologizing, saying she didn't deserve to be saved, that I should have stayed with my mother. The world tilted. My mother. Catherine Rivers. 7 years ago, she'd gone riding alone, against my father's wishes, against my warnings. She'd been thrown from her horse in the woods near Thornhill Land. Came home with a broken leg and a story about a young woman with sad eyes who'd saved her life. I'd never known the girl's name. My mother never said, just told me, before she died 3 years later, that if I ever met a Thornhill girl with sad eyes, I should remember she was the one who'd given my mother 3 more years. And now she stood before me, covered in blood and dirt, believing herself unworthy, believing herself guilty. The universe had a cruel sense of humor. Emma, my voice came out rougher than intended. The woman you saved. I think that was my mother. She went very still. That's not possible. Catherine Rivers, 7 years ago, thrown from her horse in the woods near your land. Broken leg. She came home talking about a girl who saved her, who refused to give her name. Emma's face had gone pale. I didn't know. I swear I didn't. I know. But Emma, my mother lived 3 more years after that day. 3 more years she wouldn't have had if you'd made a different choice. I stepped closer. So when you say you killed your mother, what I hear is that you saved mine. And I'll be damned if I let you believe that was wrong. Rain hammered the roof. Thunder rolled across the valley. The horse nickered nervously in her stall. Emma stood frozen. Her hands trembled. I could see her trying to process it, trying to reconcile 7 years of guilt with this new information. Why are you telling me this? Because I need you to understand something. I held her gaze. I came here today to choose a wife, a business arrangement, nothing more. But standing here, watching you save a horse everyone else would have shot, learning that you're the one who gave me 3 more years with my mother, I paused. I think I've already made my choice. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious about anything. Your father wants Rosalie. My father prepared Rosalie. I'm not what anyone wants. You're exactly what I want. The words hung between us like a challenge. Emma shook her head. You don't know me. You don't know what you're asking. Then tell me. Tell me why I shouldn't choose you. She looked away, looked at the horse, the stall, anywhere but at me. I can't love you. I don't know how. After my mother died, after my father blamed me, I learned to shut that part of myself down. I work, I survive. But love? She finally met my eyes again. I don't think I'm capable of it anymore. I'm not asking you to love me, Emma. I'm asking you to survive with me, to build something honest instead of something pretty, to be a partner instead of an ornament. I moved closer. I failed someone once because I demanded she be stronger than she was. I won't make that mistake again. You're already strong. You've already survived the worst thing that could happen. I don't need you to be anything other than what you are. And what am I? Someone who chooses to save lives even when it costs everything. Someone who fights for things that should be given up on. Someone who tells the truth even when lies would be easier. Emma's breath hitched. For a moment, just a moment, I saw something in her eyes. Something vulnerable and terrified and maybe, just maybe, hopeful. If I say yes, she whispered, my father will never forgive me. Rosalie will never forgive me. You'll be taking on all of that. I can handle it. Can you handle being married to someone who might never love you back? The question hit harder than it should have, but I'd thought about this. Thought about it the entire ride here, about Grace and her love that wasn't enough, about my mother's marriage to a man who valued empire over affection. I'd rather have honesty than love, Emma. I'd rather have a partner who respects me than a wife who resents me. And if love comes later? I shrugged. We'll deal with it then. She studied my face like she was trying to read a map, trying to find the trap, the angle, the reason this couldn't possibly be real. Ask me again, she said finally. In front of my father, in front of yours, in front of Rosalie. Ask me then, and I'll give you my answer. All right? We walked back to the house through the rain, side by side, not touching. Just two people about to blow apart everything their fathers had planned. The parlor fell silent when we entered. Rosalie looked up from her tea, her perfect smile faltering. My father's face darkened. Richard Thornhill stood abruptly. Emma, what are you doing here? You're filthy. Richard's voice carried equal parts anger and shame. Mr. Rivers, I apologize. My eldest daughter wasn't supposed to disturb you. She didn't disturb me. I asked to see the property. I found her tending an injured horse in your barn. That horse should have been put down this morning. Emma refuses to accept reality. Or maybe she sees value where you see inconvenience. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. My father stood now too. Caleb, we should continue our discussion with Mr. Thornhill. Regarding Rosalie. No, I kept my eyes on Richard. I've made my decision. I want to marry Emma. No one moved. No one breathed. Then Richard laughed. Actually laughed. A harsh, bitter sound. You want to marry Emma, the daughter who killed her own mother, the daughter with no social graces, no refinement, no value to a man of your station? Yes. Do you know why her mother died, Mr. Rivers? Do you know the real story? I know Emma saved my mother's life 7 years ago. I know she made an impossible choice and has been punished for it ever since. And I know I'd rather marry someone with that kind of courage than someone who's been groomed like a show horse. Rosalie flinched. I regretted the words immediately. She wasn't the enemy here. She was just another piece being moved around the board. Richard's face had gone purple. You think you're saving her? Rescuing her from me? Let me tell you something about Emma. She's been touched in the head since her mother died. Fits of melancholy. Refuses to attend social functions. Spends all her time with animals because she can't maintain proper relationships with people. The woman is damaged, Mr. Rivers. Permanently. Father, please. Emma's voice was quiet, controlled. Don't. Don't what? Tell him the truth? That you wake up screaming some nights? That you refuse to go near the room where your mother died? That you haven't smiled, really smiled in 7 years? Each word was designed to wound, to humiliate, to prove she was defective merchandise. But I'd heard enough. Mr. Thornhill, I don't care about any of that. In fact, it makes me want to marry her more. Because if she can survive 7 years of you, she can survive anything. I turned to Emma. She stood rigid, her face carefully blank, but her hands were clenched so tight her knuckles had gone white. Emma Thornhill, will you marry me? Will you leave this place and build a life with me? Not because you love me, not because it's expected, but because you choose to, because you want to. She looked at her father, at Rosalie, who sat frozen in her perfect dress, at my father, whose disapproval radiated like heat from a forge. Then she looked at me. Yes. The word was barely a whisper, but it was enough. Richard exploded. Absolutely not. I forbid it. The arrangement was for Rosalie. The contracts specify Rosalie. My father's voice cut through the chaos like a knife. The contracts specify a marriage between our families. They don't specify which daughter. If Caleb wants Emma and Emma agrees, the contract stands. This is insanity. Harrison, your son is making a catastrophic mistake. Perhaps, but it's his mistake to make. I stared at my father. That was the closest thing to support I'd ever gotten from him. It wouldn't last. But for now, I'd take it. We leave in an hour, I said to Emma. Pack what you need. Nothing more. She nodded, started toward the stairs. Emma, Richard's voice stopped her. If you walk out that door, you're no longer my daughter. Do you understand? You'll have nothing. No inheritance, no family, nothing. Emma turned back, and for the first time since I'd met her, she smiled. It was small, sad, but real. I stopped being your daughter the day Mother died, Father, when you decided I was a murderer instead of a girl who made an impossible choice. At least now it's official. She disappeared upstairs. Rosalie stood abruptly. Excuse me. She fled to her room, her perfect composure finally cracking. Richard rounded on me. You'll regret this, Rivers. Emma is broken. She'll never be the wife you need. And when she fails, when she proves me right, you'll come crawling back. But I won't be here to save you. Good. I don't need saving. The hour passed in tense silence. My father and Richard retreated to the study to rework the contract details. I waited in the parlor listening to the rain, wondering if Emma would actually come back down or if she'd changed her mind. Then I heard footsteps on the stairs. Emma descended carrying a single small bag. She'd changed into a clean dress, simple and dark. Her hair was pulled back in a practical braid. She looked terrified and determined in equal measure. I'm ready. We walked out into the rain together, mounted our horses. My father followed, his face unreadable. As we rode away from Thornhill Ranch, I heard Richard's voice one last time, shouting over the storm. You think you've won something, Emma? You think he's different. But men like him only want one thing. When he's done with you, when you've broken under the weight of his expectations, you'll understand. You'll see I was right. Emma didn't look back, just kept her eyes forward, her hands steady on the reins. We rode for 2 hours through the rain. Emma sat behind me on my horse, her hands barely touching my coat. She didn't speak, didn't cry, just endured. My father rode ahead, giving us space, or maybe just not wanting to witness his son's mistake. By the time Rivers Ranch appeared over the ridge, the storm had passed. The late afternoon sun broke through the clouds, painting everything gold. The ranch house stood against the Montana sky, 3 stories of dark wood and stone, twice the size of Thornhill's place, a monument to my father's ambition. We dismounted in the yard. Emma looked up at the house, her face carefully neutral. It's bigger than I expected. Too big. My father likes making statements. Harrison dismounted, handed his reins to one of the stable hands. He looked at Emma properly for the first time, really looked at her. Miss Thornhill, welcome to Rivers Ranch. I hope you understand what you've agreed to. No, sir, but I rarely understand anything before I do it. Something almost like approval flickered across his face. Fair enough. Marcus will show you to the guest room in the east wing. Dinner is at 7. We dress for dinner. I only have 2 dresses, Mr. Rivers, this one and one that's worse. Then wear that one. I don't care about dresses. I care about whether you can hold up your end of a business arrangement. Can you? Emma met his eyes. I can work harder than any ranch hand you have. I don't break easily, and I don't lie. If that's enough, then yes, I can hold up my end. Harrison studied her a moment longer. Then he nodded once and walked toward the house. Marcus Hale, our ranch manager, approached. 50 years old, weathered as old leather, loyal as they came. He'd worked for my family since before I was born, knew all our secrets, kept all our secrets. Miss Thornhill, he tipped his hat. I'll show you to your room. Thank you, Mr. Hale. Just Marcus. As they walked away, Marcus glanced back at me, raised an eyebrow. I knew that look. It meant we'd talk later. It meant he had questions. I had questions too. About what I'd just done. About whether I'd saved Emma or just dragged her into a different kind of prison. But watching her disappear into the house, her back straight despite everything, I felt something I hadn't felt in 5 years. Not love, not yet, but possibility. That night I stood outside Emma's door for 10 minutes before knocking. Heard nothing from inside. No movement. No sound. I knocked anyway. "Come in." She sat by the window, still in her dress from earlier, looking out at the dark ranch. Hadn't touched the bed, hadn't unpacked her bag. "You should try to sleep. Tomorrow will be difficult. Every day is difficult." She didn't turn around. "I'm used to it." "Emma, I need you to know something. What my father said about this being a business arrangement. He's wrong, or at least I want him to be wrong. I don't know what this is yet. But I don't want it to be just business." "What do you want it to be?" "Honest." She finally looked at me then. "Honesty is brutal, Caleb. Are you sure you want that?" "More sure than I've been about anything in years." Emma stood, walked toward me, stopped a few feet away. "Then honestly, I'm terrified. Of you. Of this house, of your father, of what happens if I fail to be whatever it is you need me to be. And if I told you I'm terrified too, that I'm afraid I'll destroy you the way I destroyed Grace." "Who's Grace?" So I told her, all of it. The engagement, the demands, the expectations, the telegram from Boston, the letter that still lived in my desk drawer. When I finished, Emma was quiet for a long time. "You think you killed her?" "I know I did. Just like I think I killed my mother." "Yes." "Maybe we're both wrong, or maybe we're both guilty. Either way, we're stuck with it." She sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly looking exhausted. "You should have chosen Rosalie. She would have made this easier." "I didn't want easy. I wanted—" "What?" "Someone who'd tell me the truth when I'm wrong. Someone who won't shatter when things get hard. Someone who knows what it costs to survive." Emma looked up at me. "You want a lot from someone you barely know." "I'm not asking for it all at once. Just don't give up. Not on this. Not on yourself." "I gave up on myself years ago, Caleb. I'm just very good at pretending I didn't." The honesty of it gutted me. "Then pretend with me. We'll both pretend we're not broken, and maybe if we pretend long enough, it'll become true." She almost smiled. Almost. "That's a terrible plan." "You have a better one?" "No." "Then it's what we've got." I left her there, went to my own room, sat at my desk and pulled out Grace's letter for what I swore would be the last time. "You asked for strength I didn't possess. You needed endurance I couldn't give." Maybe that was the difference. Grace had been human. Emma was something harder, something that had been forged in fire and come out tempered steel. Or maybe I was fooling myself again, making the same mistake with different materials. Either way, it was too late to turn back now. The next morning arrived too soon. I woke to Marcus pounding on my door. "Boss, you need to see this." I dressed quickly, followed him downstairs. My father was already in his study reading a letter. His face was set like cement. "What is it?" He handed me the letter without a word. It was from Richard Thornhill. Formal, legal, threatening. The contract had been reviewed by his attorneys. Richard was claiming that the marriage arrangement was secured under false pretenses, that Emma had been coerced, that I'd taken advantage of a woman with documented mental instability. He was filing an injunction to stop the wedding, demanding Emma be returned to his custody for psychiatric evaluation, threatening to expose the Rivers family to public scandal if we didn't comply. "He's bluffing," I said. "Is he?" My father leaned back in his chair. "Richard Thornhill is desperate. His ranch is failing. He needs our money. If he can't secure it through Rosalie, he'll try to get it through scandal, force us to pay him to keep quiet about his accusations. We don't pay extortionists." "No, we don't. But we also don't need the publicity. A court case questioning Emma's sanity, questioning your judgment. It could damage our business relationships, make investors nervous." I saw where this was heading. "You want me to return her?" "I want you to consider the cost of keeping her." "The cost," I laughed bitterly. What's the cost of doing the right thing, Father? Of not abandoning someone the moment it becomes inconvenient? The right thing. Harrison stood, walked to the window. Let me tell you about the right thing, son. Your mother wanted the right thing. She wanted me to take her to Boston when she got sick. Get her the best doctors. Spend whatever it took to save her. But I knew it wouldn't work. Knew we'd bankrupt ourselves chasing a cure that didn't exist. So I made the practical choice. Kept her comfortable here. Let her die with dignity. You let her die because you were too proud to admit weakness. He turned, his eyes hard. I let her die because I made the difficult choice, the choice you're apparently incapable of making. You're so busy trying to save Emma from her father that you haven't stopped to ask if she's worth saving. She saved Mother's life. Doesn't that count for something? The words were out before I could stop them. Harrison went very still. What did you say? 7 years ago, when Mother was thrown from her horse, Emma was the one who found her. The girl Mother talked about. The one with sad eyes. My father's face, drained of color, sat heavily in his chair. You're certain? Emma described it. The timing matches. The location. Everything. Harrison was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was different, smaller. Your mother talked about that girl, said she'd given her 3 more years, said if I ever met her, I should thank her. He looked up at me. I told her she was being sentimental, that it was just a stranger who happened to be nearby. Your mother said, he paused. She said that girl knew something about loss that most people never learn, that she carried it like a stone in her chest. Emma's been carrying it for 7 years, because her father blamed her for her mother's death. Harrison stood again, walked to his desk, pulled out a folder I'd never seen before. Your mother kept a journal. I've never read it. Couldn't bring myself to after she died. But maybe it's time. He opened it, flipped through pages of my mother's handwriting, stopped at an entry from 7 years ago. He read silently, then handed it to me. The entry was dated 3 days after her accident. I was saved today by a girl who looked at me like I was already dead. She worked so calmly, so efficiently, binding my leg, helping me onto her horse, but her eyes were hollow. When I asked her name, she wouldn't give it. Just said I should go home to my family while I still could. Later, I learned she'd left her own mother alone to save me. That her mother died while she was helping me. I tried to find her, to thank her, to apologize, but the Thornhills wouldn't let me see her. Said she was indisposed. Harrison thinks I'm being foolish, fixating on this girl, but I can't stop thinking about her, about how she looked at me with those sad eyes and said, "You don't deserve to die alone." If Caleb ever meets her, I hope he sees what I saw. Someone who understands that every life is precious, that survival isn't just about breathing, it's about choosing to keep going even when everything says to quit. I closed the journal carefully. She knew, I said. Mother knew what it cost Emma to save her. Yes, Harrison took the journal back, which makes Richard Thornhill's accusations even more obscene. He's trying to have his daughter declared mentally incompetent for saving someone's life. What are you saying? I'm saying we fight, not for business, not for contracts, but because your mother would have wanted us to. He met my eyes. And because maybe, for once, I can do the right thing instead of the practical one. Something shifted between us in that moment. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, but maybe the beginning of understanding. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Richard Thornhill won't go quietly. This is going to get ugly. He was right. The next 3 days were a blur of lawyers and letters. Richard filed his injunction. We filed counterclaims, each side escalating, pushing harder. Emma endured it with that same quiet strength she'd shown in the barn. She didn't ask about the legal battle, didn't demand updates, just worked, helped Marcus with the horses, learned the ranch, made herself useful in that way she had, like if she stopped moving, she might disappear entirely. On the 4th day, everything changed. A carriage arrived at dawn. Marcus came to find me in the stables. "Boss, you need to see this." The carriage bore Richard Thornhill's crest, but it wasn't Richard who emerged. It was Rosalie. She looked nothing like the perfect society girl from a week ago. Her dress was travel-stained, her hair hung loose. She carried a single bag and a leather satchel that looked heavy. Emma came out of the barn at the sound of horses, stopped dead when she saw her sister. "Rosalie, what are you doing here?" Rosalie's composure cracked. She ran to Emma, collapsed against her, sobbing. "I couldn't. I tried, but I couldn't. He wanted me to testify, to say you were unstable, to say you'd always been strange, and I almost did it, Emma. I almost betrayed you again." Emma held her sister stiffly, awkwardly, like she'd forgotten how. "It's all right. It's not all right. I've been a coward my whole life. I let Father blame you for Mother's death because it was easier than standing up to him. I let him parade me like a doll because I was too afraid to refuse. But I won't do this. I won't help him destroy you." She pulled back, wiping her eyes. "I brought something you need to see." Rosalie opened the leather satchel, pulled out documents, medical records. "These are Mother's files from her doctor. Father hid them, but I found them in his desk when I was looking for the testimony he wanted me to memorize." She handed the papers to Emma with shaking hands. Emma read silently. Her face went white. "What is it?" I asked. Emma's voice was barely a whisper. "My mother was dying. Congestive heart failure. Advanced stage. The doctor gave her 6 months, maybe less." She looked up at Rosalie. "Father knew?" "He knew. The doctor bills were bankrupting us. Father refused to pay for treatment, said it was throwing money away. Mother begged him, but he said we couldn't afford it." Emma sank onto the porch steps, the papers falling from her hands. "She didn't die because I left her alone. She was already dying." "Yes." Rosalie knelt beside her sister. "And Father let you believe you killed her because he needed someone to blame, someone other than himself." I picked up the papers. "Read through them. Medical assessments, bills marked past due, a final letter from the doctor begging Richard to reconsider, to give his wife a chance." At the bottom of the stack was something else, a letter in a woman's handwriting. "Dear Mrs. Rivers," it began, "I hope this letter finds you well. I wanted to thank you for your kindness when Emma brought you to our home. You were gracious and kind, even in pain. I must tell you something. My husband, Richard, has refused to pay for my medical treatment. He says we cannot afford it, that I am not worth the cost. I write this not to burden you, but because I fear what will happen when I am gone. Richard will blame Emma. I know this. He needs someone to carry his guilt, and Emma has always been stronger than Rosalie. She will survive his blame, even if it breaks her. If you ever have the chance, please tell Emma the truth, that her mother's death was not her fault, that I died loving her, that the choice she made to save your life was exactly the choice I would have wanted her to make. Thank you for listening to a dying woman's confession. Catherine Rivers, you are a good soul. I hope your family treasures you as they should. Yours, Moira Thornhill." The letter was dated 2 weeks before Moira died. She'd known she was dying, known her husband had condemned her, known her daughter would blame herself. I looked up. Emma was crying, silent tears running down her face. The first time I'd seen her cry, Rosalie held her. "I'm so sorry. I should have found these years ago, should have stopped him, should have protected you. You were 16. You were a child. I was a coward." Emma pulled back, looked at her sister properly. "You're here now. That's what matters. Father will disown me, cut me off completely. Good. Then we'll be disowned together." I cleared my throat. Both women looked up. "We have a problem. Richard can still push forward with the injunction. He'll claim these documents are forgeries, that you stole them to protect Emma, without independent verification. There's a witness." Rosalie stood. "Dr. Mitchell. He treated Mother. He'll testify that Father refused treatment, that Mother was dying regardless of Emma's choices." "Will he? Testifying against a patient's husband is difficult." "He will if I ask him. He loved Mother, hated what Father did. He'll tell the truth." I nodded. "Then we have a chance." Rosalie turned to me then, really looked at me for the first time. You really chose her, my sister, over me, over Father's plans, over everything. Yes. Why? I glanced at Emma. She was watching me, waiting for the answer. Because she looked at a dying horse and decided it deserved to live. Because she made an impossible choice and carried the weight of it for 7 years without complaint. Because when I asked if she could love me, she told me the truth instead of the lie I wanted to hear. I paused. And because my mother asked me to, in her own way. Rosalie was quiet. Then she smiled, sad but genuine. Good. Emma deserves that. Deserves someone who sees her instead of just looking past her. She picked up her bag. Where should I put my things? Emma stood. You're staying? If you'll have me. I have nowhere else to go, and Rosalie's voice broke. I've been without my sister for 7 years. I'd like to try being family again, if you'll let me. Emma hugged her then, properly, the way sisters should. Of course. They walked inside together, leaving me alone with a letter from a dead woman who'd known more than any of us about the cost of truth. That evening, I knocked on Emma's door again. She opened it immediately. Her eyes were red but clear. Thank you, she said. For what? For not saying I told you so. For not pointing out that everything my father said about me was a lie. For just letting me process it. You were carrying a 7-year-old lie as truth. That's not something you process in an afternoon. She stepped back. Let me in. We sat by the window, watched the sun set over the ranch. I don't know how to feel, Emma said quietly. For 7 years, I've been the daughter who killed her mother. It defined me, shaped everything I did, everything I believed about myself. And now it's gone. That identity, that guilt, just gone. It doesn't disappear that quickly. No, but knowing it was a lie, knowing my mother didn't die because of me, that she was already dying, that she wanted me to make the choice I made. Emma's voice caught. It changes everything. Does it change what you want? From this? From us? She looked at me. I don't know. A week ago I married you because I was running away, because anything was better than staying with my father. But now, and now you have choices. Yes. And one of those choices could be leaving, taking Rosalie, starting over somewhere neither of us control. Emma was quiet, considering it. Is that what you want? She asked finally. No, but I want you to have the option. Why? Because Grace didn't. I never gave her the choice to leave. I made her feel trapped, and that trap killed her. I won't do that again, even if it means losing you. Emma stood, paced to the window, stood there for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was steady. I'm not Grace, Caleb. I'm not fragile. I'm not going to break because life gets hard. I've already lived through the hardest thing I can imagine. Everything else is just details. So you're staying? I'm staying. But not because I'm trapped, because I'm choosing to. There's a difference. I know. She turned to face me. But I need you to understand something. I'm not healed. Finding out the truth about my mother doesn't magically fix 7 years of damage. I'm still broken in a lot of ways. Still learning how to be a person instead of a tool. This isn't going to be easy. I know? And you're still willing to try? Always, without question. Something shifted in her expression. Not love, not yet, but something softer than the armor she'd been wearing. Then ask me again. Ask me properly this time, not as an escape, not as a business arrangement. Ask me as a choice. I stood, crossed to her. Emma Thornhill, will you marry me? Will you build a life with me, knowing it won't be perfect, knowing we're both carrying damage, knowing we might fail? Will you choose this, choose me, choose us, every single day, even when it's hard? She took my hand, her fingers rough and calloused and real. Yes, I choose this. I choose you. I choose us. And for the first time in 7 years, Emma smiled, really smiled. The kind of smile that reaches the eyes. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Outside, thunder rolled across the Montana sky, but this time the storm felt like a promise instead of a threat. Fear is a strange thing. It doesn't hit you all at once. It creeps in the way Emma stopped sleeping, the way she flinched every time a horse approached, the way she looked at me like I was about to change my mind, and maybe I was, not about her, but about whether I was strong enough to fight for her. The morning after Rosalie arrived, I woke to find Marcus standing in my doorway before dawn. "We have a problem, boss." I dressed quickly, followed him down to the main gate where a man waited on horseback, expensive suit, legal satchel, the kind of messenger who delivers bad news professionally. "Caleb Rivers? That's me." He handed me an envelope. "You've been served. Court hearing in Helena 1 week from today. Richard Thornhill is petitioning to have Emma Thornhill declared mentally incompetent and remanded to his custody for psychiatric evaluation." The words hit like a physical blow. "On what grounds?" "The petition claims Miss Thornhill has demonstrated erratic behavior, including abandoning her dying mother, forming inappropriate attachments to animals over people, and entering into a marriage contract while under emotional duress. Mr. Thornhill is seeking a court order to annul the marriage and place his daughter under medical supervision." I read through the documents. Legal language wrapped around lies. Richard had found doctors willing to sign affidavits, had compiled years of Emma's so-called strange behavior into a narrative of mental illness. "This is fabricated." "That's for the court to decide, sir. You have 1 week to prepare your defense." He tipped his hat. "Good day." I watched him ride away. Felt Marcus beside me, solid and steady. "What do you need?" Marcus asked. "Coffee, then Emma. She needs to know." "She already does." She was watching from the window. I looked up. Emma stood in the second-floor window of her room. Even from this distance I could see the resignation in her posture, like she'd been expecting this, like she'd been waiting for the other shoe to drop. I found her in the library an hour later. She sat in one of the leather chairs, still in her nightdress and robe, staring at nothing. "You read the petition?" It wasn't a question. The papers sat on the table beside her. "My father is very thorough. He's been documenting my strangeness for years, apparently. Every time I chose the barn over the parlor, every social function I refused to attend, every moment I failed to perform as the perfect daughter." Her voice was flat, empty. "Emma, these doctors have never examined you. Their affidavits are based on your father's descriptions, which makes them more believable, not less. A concerned father seeking help for his troubled daughter." She finally looked at me. "You should let me go back, Caleb. Fight this and you'll lose everything, your reputation, your business relationships, all because you chose wrong." "I didn't choose wrong. You chose a woman your father-in-law is trying to have committed to an asylum. How is that not wrong?" I crossed to her, knelt so we were eye level. "Because I know the difference between sick and surviving. You're not mentally ill, Emma. You're traumatized. There's a difference. The court won't see it that way. Then we make them see it. We get our own doctors. We present the medical records showing your mother was dying. We have Rosalie testify. We prove your father is lying." Emma shook her head. "And what about the rest? The parts that aren't lies? I do avoid people. I do prefer animals. I do have nightmares. I do refuse to go near the room where my mother died. How do we defend against the truth? By explaining it. By showing that your responses are normal for someone who's been through what you've been through. By refusing to let your father turn survival into sickness." She stood abruptly, walked to the window, wrapped her arms around herself like she was trying to hold herself together. "You don't understand. In that asylum they'll do things, treatments, hydrotherapy, isolation, restraints. I've heard stories, women who went in sad and came out broken." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I'm barely holding on as it is, Caleb. I won't survive that." The fear in her voice gutted me. This wasn't about the court case. This was about the fundamental terror of losing control, of being locked away, of becoming the thing her father had always said she was. I crossed to her, didn't touch her, just stood close enough that she could feel I was there. Then we fight. We fight with everything we have. And if they try to take you, they'll have to go through me first. You can't promise that. Watch me." Emma turned, looked at me with those blue eyes that had seen too much. Why are you doing this? You barely know me. You could walk away. Tell the court the marriage was a mistake. Get the annulment your father-in-law wants. Move on with your life. Is that what you think I should do? I think you should be practical. I tried practical once, with Grace. It killed her. So now I'm trying something different. I'm trying to give a damn about someone other than myself. Emma's breath caught. For a moment, I thought she might cry. But she didn't, just nodded once. Then tell me what to do, because I don't know how to fight this. We start by talking to Marcus. He knew my mother. He can testify about what happened 7 years ago. Then we find Dr. Mitchell. Get him to confirm your mother's medical condition. And we prepare you for the worst questions they'll ask, the personal ones, the invasive ones, the ones designed to make you look unstable. I don't know if I can do that, stand in front of strangers and defend my sanity. You won't be alone. I'll be there. Rosalie will be there. We'll all be there. Emma was quiet for a long time. Then she squared her shoulders. That same determination I'd seen when she was saving the horse in the barn. All right, we fight. The next 3 days were brutal. We met with lawyers, prepared testimony, went over every detail of Emma's life that Richard might weaponize. Marcus confirmed everything about my mother's accident. How Catherine had come home talking about the girl with sad eyes. How she'd tried to find Emma afterward to thank her. How Richard Thornhill had refused to let her see his daughter. Catherine was convinced that girl had given her more time. Marcus said, "She made me promise that if anything happened to her, I'd make sure you knew, that you'd understand what that girl had sacrificed." He pulled out an old letter, folded and worn. "Your mother wrote this a month before she died. Asked me to give it to you when you were ready. I think now's the time." I opened it with shaking hands. My mother's handwriting, still elegant despite the illness that was killing her. "My dearest Caleb, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I hope I've left you with more than just memories and responsibilities. I hope I've left you with the wisdom to see what matters. Your father sees business, sees empire, sees legacy. But I see people. I see hearts. I see the girl who saved my life, even though it cost her everything. If you ever meet her, son, if you ever have the chance to know her, don't let your father's practicality blind you to her worth. She knows things about loss that most people never learn. She carries it like a stone. But she's still standing, still fighting. That kind of strength is rare. Treasure it if you find it. Love, Mother." I read it twice, then handed it to Emma. She read silently. When she finished, tears were streaming down her face. "She knew, your mother knew what it cost me." "Yes. And she still thought I was worth something." "She knew you were worth everything." Emma pressed the letter to her chest. "Can we use this in court?" "We can. But Emma, it won't be easy. They'll attack you, make you relive your mother's death, question every choice you've made, try to paint you as unstable." "I know, but if your mother thought I was worth fighting for, then maybe I am." That night I couldn't sleep, kept thinking about the court case, about what would happen if we lost, about Emma being taken away to some asylum where they'd try to fix something that wasn't broken. I went downstairs, found Emma in the kitchen making tea. "Couldn't sleep either?" she asked. "No." We sat at the table. The house was silent around us, just the two of us in the lamplight. "Caleb, can I ask you something?" "Anything. If we win this case, if we prove my father wrong, if we make this marriage real instead of just a legal arrangement, what happens then?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, what do you want from this? From me? I know you said you wanted honesty, partnership, but eventually you'll want more. And I don't know if I can give it." I understood what she wasn't saying. Love, she was asking if I'd expect her to love me. "I want you to be safe, to have choices, to not spend every day waiting for the other shoe to drop. Beyond that?" I shrugged. "We'll figure it out as we go." "That's not an answer. It's the only honest one I have." Emma wrapped her hands around her teacup. "I'm afraid I'll disappoint you, that you'll realize you made a mistake and regret it, that I'll wake up one day and you'll be gone." "I'm afraid of the same thing, that you'll realize you settled, that you married me because I was the lesser of two evils, that one day you'll look at me with the same resentment Grace had." We sat with that honesty between us, two people carrying scars, admitting they were terrified. "We're a mess," Emma said finally. "Yes, this probably won't work. Probably not. But we're doing it anyway." "Seems that way," Emma smiled. "Small but real. My mother would have liked you. She always said the measure of a man wasn't what he had, but what he was willing to risk for what mattered." "What did your mother risk?" Emma's smile faded. "Everything. She risked her health by refusing to burden us with medical bills, risked her marriage by standing up to my father when he wanted to send me away after she died, risked her peace by writing that letter to your mother, admitting what my father had done." "She sounds remarkable." "She was, and I failed her." "No, you honored her. You made the choice she would have wanted. You saved a life instead of watching someone die. That's what she taught you." Emma was quiet. Then she reached across the table, took my hand. It was the first time she'd touched me without being prompted. "Thank you for saying that, for seeing it that way. It's the truth." We sat there until the sun came up, not talking, just being. Two people who'd found each other in the wreckage and decided to try building something new. The day before the court hearing, Rosalie came to find me in the stables. Her face was pale. "I need to tell you something. About Father. About what he's planning." We sat on hay bales. Rosalie twisted her hands together nervously. "Father has a witness, someone who claims Emma tried to hurt herself 2 years ago, that she stood at the edge of the cliff behind Thornhill Ranch and talked about joining her mother." Air left my lungs. "Is it true?" "I don't know. I was away visiting cousins, but Father says he has someone who saw it, who will testify." "Who?" "One of the ranch hands. Father dismissed him last year, but apparently they've stayed in contact." "A disgruntled former employee. The court won't trust that." "They will if he's convincing. And Father is very good at coaching people on what to say." I stood, paced, trying to think. "We need to talk to Emma. Find out if there's any truth to it. Prepare for how to address it. Caleb, there's something else. Something worse." I turned. Rosalie's face was ashen. "Father contacted Jonathan Pierce, offered him a deal. If Jonathan testifies that Emma showed signs of instability when she was younger, that she was always strange, Father will give him access to our water rights, the ones you were supposed to get through the marriage contract." Jonathan Pierce, my father's business rival, a man who'd do anything to undercut the Rivers family. Did Pierce agree? I don't know, but Father seems confident. This was worse than I thought. Richard wasn't just trying to get Emma back. He was trying to destroy our credibility, make it impossible for us to do business in Montana. Does Emma know? No, I wanted to tell you first. Thank you for warning me, for choosing her over him. Rosalie stood. She's my sister. I should have chosen her years ago. I found Emma in the garden. She was pulling weeds with methodical intensity, the way people do when they're trying not to think. We need to talk. She looked up, saw my face. How bad? I told her everything. The cliff, the ranch hand, Jonathan Pierce. Emma listened without interruption. When I finished, she went back to pulling weeds. Emma? It's true. About the cliff. 2 years ago, I went there, stood at the edge, thought about how easy it would be to just step off, to stop carrying the weight. I couldn't breathe. What stopped you? A bird. A stupid little sparrow landed on a branch near me, started singing, and I thought, if that bird can sing after everything, maybe I can keep breathing after everything. So I stepped back, went home. Never told anyone. She looked up at me. But someone saw, one of the hands probably, told my father. And now he'll use it to prove I'm suicidal, unstable, dangerous to myself. Were you suicidal? Emma considered the question seriously. I was tired, so tired of fighting, of carrying guilt, of being invisible. But I didn't want to die. I just wanted to stop hurting. There's a difference. I know. The court won't see it that way. Then we make them see it. We explain. We show that you were in pain, but you chose to live, that you're still choosing to live. That's not sickness, Emma. That's strength. She went back to her weeding. You have a lot of faith in courts seeing nuance. I have faith in you, in your ability to tell your story, to make them understand. And if they don't? If they decide my father is right? I knelt beside her in the dirt. Then we run. We leave Montana. Start over somewhere they can't find us. I mean it, Emma. I won't let them lock you away. She looked at me. Really looked. Like she was trying to see if I meant it. You'd give up everything? Your ranch, your family, your whole life? I'd give up anything before I'd give up you. Emma's hands stilled in the dirt. You can't promise that. I just did. She turned away, but not before I saw the tears. I don't know how to believe you. Everyone I've ever trusted has either left or betrayed me. How do I know you won't do the same? You don't. That's what trust is. A risk, a choice, a leap without knowing if someone will catch you. I'm not good at leaps. Neither am I, but we're doing it anyway. Emma was quiet for a long time. Then she stood, brushed dirt from her hands. The hearing is tomorrow. We should prepare. Emma? What? Thank you for trusting me enough to tell me the truth. About the cliff, about everything. She nodded once, then walked back to the house. I stayed in the garden, thought about Grace, about how I demanded she be strong without asking what strength cost her, about how I'd measured her worth by her ability to endure instead of her right to be human. I wouldn't make that mistake again. Emma's pain didn't make her weak. Her survival didn't make her damaged. She was just a woman who'd been hurt and kept going anyway. That night, I found my father in his study. We need to talk about tomorrow. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed me one. Richard Thornhill is going to paint you as a fool, Emma as a mad woman, our family as gullible at best, complicit at worst. Are you prepared for that? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Harrison studied me. You really care about her. This isn't just about proving Richard wrong or honoring your mother's memory. You care about Emma herself. Yes. Why? I thought about it. Tried to find words for something I barely understood myself. Because she's honest. Because she doesn't pretend to be anything she's not. Because when I asked her if she could love me, she said no instead of lying. Because she survived 7 years of hell, and she's still kind to horses and sisters and men who don't deserve it. I paused. And because when I'm with her, I don't feel like I have to be the son you wanted. I can just be Caleb, flawed and scared and trying. My father was quiet. Then he did something I'd never seen him do. He smiled, not the cold business smile, a real one. Your mother would have liked her. Very much, I know, and she would have been proud of you for choosing love over legacy. I'm not choosing love, I'm choosing Emma. Love might come later, or it might not. Either way, I'm choosing her. Harrison raised his glass. Then here's to choices, and to having the courage to make them. We drank, and for the first time in my life, I felt like my father and I understood each other. The morning of the hearing arrived cold and gray, and Emma dressed in her best dress, the dark blue one that had been my mother's. Rosalie helped her with her hair, made her look presentable but not performing, just herself. We rode to Helena in the carriage. Emma sat rigid the entire way, not speaking, not moving, just breathing. Emma, I said quietly, whatever happens today, you're not alone. Remember that. She nodded, but her eyes were distant, already preparing for battle. The courthouse loomed gray and imposing. Richard Thornhill waited on the steps with his lawyers. He smiled when he saw us, confident, certain of victory. Caleb, Emma, shall we get this unpleasantness over with? Emma didn't respond, just walked past him into the building. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, wood-paneled, stern. The judge was an older man named Morrison, fair, according to my lawyers, but strict about evidence and testimony. Richard's lawyer spoke first, laid out the case methodically. Emma's history of avoiding social situations, her preference for animals over people, her episode at the cliff, the testimony from the ranch hand who claimed to have witnessed it. medical affidavits from doctors who'd never examined her but were willing to declare her mentally incompetent based on her father's descriptions. Then came Jonathan Pierce. He testified that he'd known Emma since she was a child, that she'd always been strange, withdrawn, that after her mother's death she'd become worse, talked to herself, refused normal activities, showed signs of delusion. It was all lies, but he delivered them smoothly, convincingly. Our lawyer cross-examined, pointed out that Pierce had never lived near the Thornhills, that his testimony was based on second-hand information, that he had financial motivation to discredit the Rivers family. But the damage was done. Then it was our turn. Marcus testified first, described my mother's accident, Emma's rescue, how Catherine had wanted to thank her, but Richard had refused access. Dr. Mitchell testified next, confirmed Moira Thornhill's medical condition, that she'd been dying regardless of Emma's choices, that Richard had refused treatment. Rosalie testified last, described their childhood, how their father had blamed Emma for their mother's death, how he'd used her as a scapegoat for his own guilt, how Emma had endured 7 years of emotional abuse. It was powerful, but I could see the judge's face. He was skeptical, thinking this was just family drama, competing narratives. Then they called Emma. She walked to the stand, sat with her hands folded in her lap, looked small and vulnerable and terrified. Richard's lawyer circled like a predator. Miss Thornhill, is it true that 2 years ago you stood at the edge of a cliff contemplating suicide? Yes. The courtroom held its breath. Emma's voice was steady but quiet. And is it true that you frequently avoid social situations and prefer the company of animals to people? Yes. And is it true that you have nightmares, that you refuse to enter certain rooms in your family home, that you experience episodes of profound sadness? Yes. Every answer was another nail. I wanted to object, to stop this. But our lawyer had warned me. Let Emma tell her story. Let her explain. Miss Thornhill, these are all signs of mental instability. Do you deny that? Emma looked up then, met the lawyer's eyes. No, I don't deny that I've struggled, that I've been sad, that I've been afraid. But struggling isn't the same as being insane. Being sad isn't the same as being incompetent. And choosing to live, even when it's hard, isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. The lawyer tried to interrupt, but Emma kept going. I stood at that cliff 2 years ago because I was tired of being blamed for my mother's death, tired of being treated like I was broken, tired of pretending I was fine when I wasn't. But I didn't jump. I chose to keep going. I chose to survive. And I've been making that choice every day since. She looked at the judge now. I'm not mentally ill, Your Honor. I'm traumatized. I've been hurt and I'm healing. But hurt people aren't incompetent. They're just hurt. And if you decide I need to be locked away because I've been sad, because I've struggled, because I've had to fight to keep living, then you're saying that survival itself is a sickness, and I refuse to accept that. No one moved. No one breathed. The judge leaned forward. Miss Thornhill, why did you marry Mr. Rivers? Was it to escape your father? Emma glanced at me, then back at the judge. Partly, yes. At first, I married him because it was better than staying. But that's not why I'm still married to him. Then why? Because he gave me something no one else ever has, a choice. He asked me if I wanted to stay, if I wanted this marriage, if I wanted him, and when I said yes, he believed me. He didn't try to fix me or change me or make me into something I'm not. He just let me be. And that's worth more than safety or money or escaping my father. It's worth everything. She looked at me again. And I saw it. The thing I'd been waiting for. Not love. Not yet. But trust. Real trust. The judge was quiet for a long time. Then he looked at Richard. Mr. Thornhill, I've heard enough. Your daughter is articulate, coherent, and clearly capable of making her own decisions. The fact that she's experienced trauma and sadness doesn't make her incompetent. It makes her human. He banged his gavel. Petition denied. Emma Rivers is a legal adult capable of making her own choices. This marriage stands. Case dismissed." The courtroom erupted. Richard's face went purple with rage. Our lawyers shook hands. Rosalie burst into tears, and Emma just sat there, staring at her hands, like she couldn't quite believe it was over. I went to her, helped her stand. "We won." She looked up at me. "We won." Then she collapsed against me, not crying, just holding on like I was the only solid thing in a spinning world. "I choose you," she whispered. "I choose this. I choose us." And for the first time since this all began, I believed we might actually make it. They say you don't know what you're made of until you lose everything. 6 months after that courtroom victory, I found out exactly what I was made of. And it wasn't what I expected. The trouble started on a Tuesday morning in December. Snow had fallen overnight, covering Rivers Ranch in white silence. I was in the stables with Marcus when my father's voice cut through the cold air. "Caleb, my study, now." His tone carried a weight I hadn't heard before. Not anger. Something worse. Resignation. I found him standing at his desk, a letter in his hand. His face had aged 10 years overnight. "Jonathan Pierce has filed suit. He's claiming we violated our water rights agreement with the Northern Ranchers. Says we've been diverting more than our share. He has documentation, testimony, evidence." My stomach dropped. "That's impossible. We've been careful." "We have. But my father wasn't. 30 years ago, when he first established those rights, he forged documents, changed boundaries, took what wasn't ours." Harrison sat heavily in his chair. "I knew. I've always known. I just hoped it would never come to light." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because Pierce isn't just suing us. He's offering a deal. Drop the lawsuit, let Richard Thornhill have Emma back, and he'll bury the evidence. Keep fighting and he'll expose everything. We'll lose the ranch, our reputation, everything." The room tilted. "He can't do that. Emma won the court case. She's legally free. The court said she was competent to make her own choices. It didn't say she couldn't change her mind. Pierce is betting that faced with watching you lose everything, Emma will choose to go back, to save you from the consequences of marrying her." I thought about Emma, about how she carried guilt like a stone, about how she'd spent 7 years blaming herself for her mother's death, about how she'd do anything to avoid being the cause of someone else's pain. "She'll try to leave, to protect me." "Yes, which is why you need to decide, right now, what matters more, this ranch or that woman." I didn't hesitate. "Emma." Harrison's eyes widened slightly. "You understand what you're saying. This ranch has been in our family for 3 generations. You'd give it all up?" "I'd give up anything before I'd give up her." My father was quiet for a long moment. Then he opened a drawer, pulled out papers I'd never seen before. "Your mother wrote these, instructions for if something like this ever happened. She knew about the forged water rights, knew it would come back to haunt us eventually." He handed me the papers. They were in my mother's handwriting, a plan, detailed and specific. She wanted us to make it right, contact the Northern Ranchers, admit what my father did, offer fair compensation, establish legitimate agreements. She said the only way to protect the ranch long-term was to build it on truth instead of lies. Why didn't you do this before? Because I was a coward. Because admitting my father was a fraud meant admitting I'd built my life on a foundation of lies. Your mother forgave me for many things, but not that. It's why she stopped trusting me toward the end, why she wrote those letters, why she made Marcus promise to give you that last letter when you were ready. He stood, walked to the window. "But you're not me, Caleb. You chose Emma over everything. You fought for her in court. You'd give up this ranch for her. You're the man your mother wanted me to be, so I'm asking you, what do we do?" I read through my mother's plan. It was brilliant, thorough, but it would cost us. We'd have to give back land, pay restitution, reduce the size of the ranch by nearly half. We do what Mother wanted. We make it right. Even if it means losing everything, we won't lose everything. We'll lose the parts built on lies. What's left will be ours, really ours. That's worth more. Harrison smiled, sad but genuine. Your mother would be proud. Then let's make her proud. We spent the next 2 days preparing, contacted the northern ranchers, arranged a meeting, prepared documentation showing what had been stolen and what we intended to return. I didn't tell Emma, not yet. She had enough to carry, but Emma knew something was wrong. She always knew. I found her in the barn that evening. She was brushing down a horse with methodical intensity, the way she did when she was thinking too hard. "Caleb," she didn't look up. "Whatever you're about to tell me, just say it. Don't try to protect me." "How did you know?" "You've been avoiding me for 2 days. Your father keeps looking at me like he's memorizing my face. Marcus won't meet my eyes. Something's happening." I told her everything, the water rights, the lawsuit, Pierce's deal. My decision to make things right, regardless of the cost. Emma listened without interrupting. When I finished, she set down the brush carefully. "How much will you lose?" "Half the ranch, maybe more. Depends on what the ranchers demand in compensation." "And if you give me back to my father? If I agree to go?" "That's not an option." "Caleb, be practical. You can't lose everything because of me." "I'm not losing anything because of you. I'm losing things that were never really mine, that were built on my grandfather's lies and my father's cowardice. Good riddance." Emma turned to face me. "You say that now. But what about next month? Next year? When you're living in a smaller house on a smaller ranch with a wife who can't even promise to love you? You'll resent me. You'll wish you'd chosen differently." "No, I won't. You can't know that." I crossed to her, took her hands. "Emma, listen to me. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. I let my mother die without fighting for her. I destroyed Grace by demanding she be something she wasn't. I've spent 30 years trying to be the son my father wanted instead of the man I actually am. But choosing you, marrying you, fighting for you, those aren't mistakes. Those are the first truly right things I've ever done. So no, I won't resent you. I'll thank you for giving me a reason to finally do the right thing." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know how to be worth that." "You already are. You just have to believe it." She pulled away, paced to the stall door. "What if I can't? What if I spend the rest of our lives waiting for you to realize you made a mistake? What if I can't ever give you what you deserve?" "What do I deserve, Emma?" "Love. A real marriage. Children. A partner who isn't broken. I don't want perfect. I want you. Broken pieces and all. Because my pieces are broken too. And maybe together we're less broken than we are apart." Emma turned, looked at me with those blue eyes that still carried too much pain. "I'm trying, Caleb. I'm trying to believe this is real, that you won't leave, that I'm not going to destroy everything you touch. But it's hard. I know. And I'm not asking you to fix yourself overnight. I'm just asking you to stay, to keep choosing this, to keep choosing me. Can you do that?" She was quiet for a long time. Then she nodded. "Yes, I can do that." The meeting with the northern ranchers was scheduled for the following week. But before we could get there, everything fell apart. I woke before dawn to find the house in chaos. Smoke poured from the western barn. Flames licked at the roof. Ranch hands ran with buckets, shouting. I threw on clothes and ran outside, found Marcus directing the effort. "How bad?" "Bad. Fire started in the hayloft, spread fast. We've got it mostly contained, but we lost 6 horses, maybe more." My ribs constricted. "Emma?" "She's in there. Went in to save the mare with the injured leg. The one she fixed when you first came to Thornhill Ranch. I tried to stop her, but she wouldn't listen. Terror shot through me. I ran toward the barn. Marcus grabbed my arm. "Boss, don't. The structure's not stable. It could collapse any second." "Emma's in there, and you'll die if you go in after her." I shook him off, ran into the smoke. The heat was overwhelming, smoke thick as wool. I could barely see, could barely breathe. I called her name, heard nothing but the roar of flames. Then I saw her, near the back, trying to calm the terrified mare. The horse was panicking, fighting the lead rope. "Emma!" She looked up, saw me. "Get out, the roof's about to go." "Not without you." The mare reared. Emma held on, trying to guide her toward the door, but the horse was too frightened, too strong. I ran to them, grabbed the other side of the lead rope. Together, we pulled. The mare finally moved. One step, then another. Above us, timber groaned, the roof sagged. "Go!" I shoved Emma toward the door. She stumbled, caught herself, ran. I followed with the mare. The horse fought every step. My lungs burned, my eyes watered. I couldn't see, couldn't think, just pulled. We burst through the door as the roof collapsed behind us. The mare bolted, ran across the yard. Safe. I fell to my knees, coughing, choking on smoke. Emma was beside me, also coughing, her face black with soot. "Are you insane?" I managed between coughs. "You could have died. So could you. Why did you come in after me?" "Because I'm not losing you to save a horse." "She's not just a horse. She's the first life I saved after my mother died. I couldn't let her burn." We stared at each other, both furious, both terrified, both alive. Then Emma started laughing. Actual laughter, high and slightly hysterical. "We're idiots, both of us, complete idiots." I started laughing too, because she was right. We were idiots. Two people carrying scars who'd run into a burning building because we couldn't stand to lose anything else. Marcus appeared. "You two done trying to kill yourselves?" "For now," Emma said. "Good, because we have a bigger problem." He gestured toward the road. A carriage was approaching. Expensive, bearing the seal of Helena's courthouse. My father emerged from the house. "Read the seal." His face went gray. "It's a summons. Jonathan Pierce has accelerated the lawsuit. Hearing is tomorrow, in Helena. If we don't show, we forfeit." "Tomorrow," I stood. "We're not ready. We haven't finished negotiating with the ranchers. Pierce knows that. He's forcing our hand. Either we settle with him today, give him what he wants, or we go to court tomorrow and lose everything." Emma stepped forward. "What does he want?" Harrison looked at her. "You. He wants Caleb to annul the marriage, return you to your father's custody. In exchange, he'll drop the lawsuit. And if I agree?" "No." I grabbed her arm. "We're not discussing this. Caleb, if I can save the ranch by leaving—" I said no, we'll fight this in court. We'll find another way. "There is no other way," my father said quietly. "Not by tomorrow. Pierce has planned this perfectly. He's left us no time to prepare a proper defense." Emma pulled free from my grip. "Then I'll go. I'll agree to the annulment. I'll go back to my father." "Like hell you will. Caleb, be reasonable. You can't lose everything because of me." "Watch me." We stood there, at an impasse. Emma willing to sacrifice herself, me refusing to let her. Then a voice cut through the tension. "There's another option." We turned. Rosalie stood in the doorway. Behind her was a woman I'd never seen before. Older, well-dressed, carrying herself with quiet authority. "This is Margaret Sutherland," Rosalie said. "She's an investor from Boston. And she has a proposition." Margaret stepped forward. Her eyes were sharp, assessing. "Mr. Rivers, I've been watching your situation with interest. Jonathan Pierce is a bully. I don't like bullies. I also don't like men who try to force women back into captivity under the guise of protection." She looked at Emma. "Your sister contacted me, told me your story. I'm prepared to offer you a deal." "What kind of deal?" my father asked. "I'll buy out Jonathan Pierce's claim. Pay him more than he could win in court. In exchange, I want a partnership with Rivers Ranch. Equal stake, equal say in how it's run. And one more condition." "Which is?" Margaret smiled. "Emma Rivers becomes the operations manager, equal authority with Caleb on all major decisions. I'm not investing in the past of this ranch. I'm investing in its future. And she represents that future." No one moved. No one breathed. Emma found her voice first. "You want me to run the ranch? I don't know anything about running a ranch." "You know how to survive, how to make hard choices, how to see value where others see waste. That's worth more than experience." Margaret turned to Harrison. "Do we have a deal?" My father looked at me. I looked at Emma. "It's your choice," I said to her. "If you want this, if you're willing to take it on, I'll support you." Emma's hands shook. "I don't know if I can do this." "Yes, you can. You've already been doing it, making decisions, saving horses, standing up to my father. You've been running things, you just didn't have the title." Emma looked at Rosalie. "You did this? You found her?" I wrote to every investor I could find, told them what Father was doing, what Pierce was doing. Margaret was the only one who cared enough to respond. Rosalie smiled. You saved my life by letting me stay here. This is me saving yours. Emma turned back to Margaret. If I agree, what happens to my father? To Pierce? Your father loses all legal claim to you. Pierce gets paid but loses his leverage, and you get to build the life you choose. Is that acceptable? Emma looked at me. What do you think? I think my mother would approve. She always wanted this place to be run by someone who cared more about people than profit. That's you, Emma. That's always been you. Emma took a deep breath, squared her shoulders. All right, I accept. But I have conditions too. Margaret raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. First, any profits from the ranch go toward building a home for displaced women, women running from bad marriages, bad fathers, bad situations. They get sanctuary here. They get training. They get choices. Agreed. Second, we establish fair wages for all workers, not just the minimum, fair. And we create a fund for medical emergencies. No one loses their family because they can't afford treatment. Margaret's smile widened. You've thought about this. I've had 7 years to think about what I'd do differently if I had power. Now I have it. I'm using it. Anything else? Emma looked at Harrison. Yes, Caleb's father stays on as advisor. He knows this land, this business. His mistakes don't erase his knowledge. We learn from the past. We don't pretend it didn't happen. And because that's what my mother would have wanted. Forgiveness and accountability, both, not one or the other. My father's eyes widened. Emma, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Margaret extended her hand. Miss Rivers, I believe we're going to do remarkable things together. Emma shook it, her hand still trembling, but her voice was steady. I believe so, too. The contracts were signed that afternoon. Margaret's lawyers worked faster than I'd thought possible. By evening, Jonathan Pierce had been paid off. The lawsuit was dropped. The ranch was saved. But it was different now. Smaller. Owned by 3 people instead of 1. Built on honesty instead of lies. Richard Thornhill sent one final letter. I found it on Emma's desk that night. She was reading it when I came in, tears streaming down her face. What does it say? She handed it to me. Emma, you've won. You've beaten me at every turn, proven me wrong about everything. I should hate you for it. Part of me does. But another part, the part that remembers holding you as a baby, watching you grow, seeing your mother in your eyes, that part is proud. You're stronger than I ever was, braver than I could be. You've built something real while I've spent my life building lies. I don't expect your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know, in whatever small way this means anything, I'm sorry for blaming you, for using you, for never seeing you until it was too late. Be happy, Emma. Be free. Be everything I never let you be. Your father. I set the letter down. Emma was crying openly now. He's still wrong about so many things, still making excuses, still trying to shift blame, but he admitted it. He admitted he was wrong. That's more than I ever thought I'd get. I sat beside her. What are you going to do? Nothing. I don't need to respond. I don't need to forgive him. I just need to let it go, let him go, and build the life I want without his shadow over it. Can you do that? I think so. Finally, I think I can. She leaned against me. We sat in silence as the sun set over the ranch that was now partly hers, partly ours. Caleb? Yes? Thank you. For not giving up on me, for fighting even when I told you not to, for choosing me over everything. You're worth choosing, Emma, every single day. She turned, looked at me with those eyes that had seen too much but were finally starting to heal. I love you. The words hung in the air. Simple, profound, terrifying. You don't have to say that. I told you I didn't need. I know what you said, but I'm not saying it because you need to hear it. I'm saying it because it's true. I love you, Caleb Rivers. Not because you saved me, not because you gave me choices, but because you saw me when I was invisible, because you stood beside me when everyone said to walk away, because you're just as broken as I am and you're not afraid to admit it. My throat tightened. I love you too. Have for weeks. just didn't know how to say it. You didn't have to say it. You showed it, every day, in every choice." She smiled, that real smile that reached her eyes. "But it's nice to hear anyway." I kissed her then, for the first time. Really kissed her. Not a formal wedding kiss, not a performance, just two people who'd found each other in the wreckage and decided to build something new. When we pulled apart, Emma was crying again. But this time they were different tears, not pain, not fear, something else entirely. "What?" I asked. "I'm happy. For the first time in 7 years, I'm actually happy, and I don't know what to do with that." "You live with it. You let yourself have it. You stop waiting for it to be taken away." "That's terrifying." "I know, but we'll be terrified together." She laughed. That beautiful sound I'd heard so rarely. "We really are idiots. The best kind." 6 months later, the Thornhill Rivers Home for Women opened on the land that had once been Thornhill Ranch. Richard had signed it over to Rosalie, who immediately deeded it to the foundation Emma had created. 12 women lived there now, learning trades, healing from trauma, building new lives. Emma spent 3 days a week there, teaching them what she'd learned. That survival wasn't just about breathing, it was about choosing to keep going. The Rivers Ranch thrived under Emma's management. She implemented every change she'd promised Margaret: fair wages, medical funds, sustainable practices that prioritized long-term stability over short-term profit. My father worked beside her, learning to see the ranch through new eyes, learning to value people over empire. He was different now, quieter, more thoughtful, still haunted by his mistakes, but trying to make amends. Marcus had become Emma's right hand, teaching her everything he knew about the land, the animals, the rhythm of ranch life. They made a good team, the practical cowboy and the woman who saw value where others saw waste. And Emma and I, we were building something neither of us had expected. Not perfect, still broken in places, still learning how to trust, how to love, how to be whole. But we were doing it together, and that made all the difference. On a spring morning, I found Emma standing at the edge of the cliff where she'd once contemplated ending everything. She stood with her back to me, looking out over the valley. I approached quietly. "You all right?" "I came here to remember, to remind myself how far I've come." "And?" She turned. Her face was peaceful, no longer haunted. "I'm grateful for that bird, for that moment of choosing to stay. Because if I'd stepped off this cliff 7 years ago, I would have missed everything. Meeting you, saving the ranch, building the home, finding Rosalie again, all of it." She took my hand. "I would have missed this, us, and that would have been the real tragedy." I pulled her close. "I'm grateful too, for the woman who saved my mother, who saved a horse everyone else would have shot, who saved me from becoming my father. You've saved so many lives, Emma, including your own. We saved each other. Yes, we did." We stood there as the sun rose over the Montana Valley. Two people who'd been broken and had chosen to heal together. Two people who'd lost everything and found something better in the wreckage. Emma was right. We were idiots. Broken, scared, imperfect idiots. But we were idiots who had chosen love over legacy, truth over comfort, each other over everything. And standing there with her hand in mine, watching the sun paint the sky gold, I knew I'd make the same choice again. Every single day for the rest of my life. This was home, not the ranch, not the land, not the empire. Her, us, this moment, this was everything I'd been looking for and hadn't known how to find. Until a woman with sad eyes taught me that the bravest thing you can do is keep choosing to live, to love, to try, even when everything says to quit. Emma had taught me that, and I'd spend the rest of my life being grateful for it. The story could end here, with us on that cliff, looking toward a future we'd built together, with hope and healing and hard-won happiness. But life doesn't end at the happy moments. It keeps going, and so did we. 3 years after that morning on the cliff, Emma gave birth to our daughter. We named her Catherine Moira Rivers, after both our mothers. after the women who'd taught us about sacrifice and strength. Emma labored for 18 hours. I stayed beside her the entire time, held her hand, reminded her to breathe, watched her do the bravest thing she'd ever done. When Catherine was finally born, screaming and perfect and alive, Emma looked at me with tears streaming down her face. We made her something good and whole and new. From all our broken pieces, we made her. I kissed her forehead. You made her. You carried her. You brought her into the world. You're the strongest person I've ever known. Emma held our daughter against her chest. Catherine quieted immediately, recognized her mother's heartbeat. I'm terrified, Emma whispered. What if I fail her the way my father failed me? What if I carry too much damage to be a good mother? You won't, because you know what damage looks like. You know what it costs. You'll protect her from it. And when you can't, when you make mistakes, because we all make mistakes, you'll admit them. You'll apologize. You'll do better. That's the difference between you and your father. You know how to change. Emma looked down at Catherine. Our daughter had her eyes, that same deep blue. Hello, little one. Welcome to the world. I promise I'll try to be brave for you, even when I'm scared, especially when I'm scared. Catherine yawned, closed her eyes, fell asleep in her mother's arms. And watching them together, mother and daughter, I felt something settle in my chest, something that had been restless and searching for 33 years. Peace, not perfection, not the absence of struggle, just peace. The knowledge that I was exactly where I was supposed to be, with exactly who I was supposed to be with, building exactly the life I was supposed to build. Emma looked up at me, smiled that smile that still took my breath away. We did it, Caleb. We survived. We healed. We built something real. We did. And we'll keep doing it, every day, for her, for us, for everyone who needs to know that broken things can be made whole. I kissed her, kissed our daughter's head, felt the weight of everything we'd been through and everything we'd become. Always, without question, I promised, for the rest of our lives, and I kept that promise. Through good days and hard days, through struggles and triumphs, through every moment that came after. Because that's what love is, not the absence of fear or pain or difficulty, but the choice to stay, to keep choosing, to keep building, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Emma taught me that, in a barn, with a dying horse and hands covered in blood. She taught me that the bravest thing you can do is see something worth saving and decide to fight for it, even when that thing is yourself, even when that thing is us. 6 months ago, I stood in a courtroom and chose to lose everything. Today, I stand in a home filled with love and laughter and life. You asked if I regret it. I tell you now, at the end of this story, I regret nothing. I'd lose it all again. I'd make every hard choice. I'd fight every battle. For her, for us, for the life we built from ashes and hope. That's my answer. That's my truth. And it's the only one that matters. The end.